Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. Very busy legislative week, kind of coming toward the end of the legislative session, and we are joined by the man that everything in the legislative calendar runs through, the Senate Majority Floor Leader, Tony Luetkemeyer. Thank you for the time, Senator.
Scott, thanks for having me back on the show.
Well, I don't think anybody would really have believed things would go this well, not just in the legislation. You can agree or disagree with some of these bills, but as far as your time as floor leader of the Senate, I think it's going to be thought of as now we're close to the end. Maybe it doesn't end this way, but the first 3.5 months of session, these have to be better than your expectations, right?
Yeah, no, I think the Senate has, the way that it's functioned this year has really exceeded my expectations. I think that's true for Senator O'Laughlin, too. When we came into these roles, her as pro tem and me as the floor leader, the number one thing that we promised to focus on was Senate functionality. And we believed that if we achieved that, that the legislative successes that we've seen would flow from that. And that is what we've seen. We've seen, senators generally getting along well with one another, working together collaboratively, addressing issues that they may have with a particular bill off the floor rather than airing dirty laundry on the floor. And that's resulted in us not only passing more legislation, but more big legislation.
Is part of this that you're taking folks, and it felt like sometimes if you had your moment on the calendar, that's where everything happened, and then you couldn't negotiate because you had to hold the floor, and then you had misgivings. It feels like the legislation that comes to the floor is a little bit better. Maybe it's ripe to be passed instead of ripe to be argued over.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, you look at a committee vote and you see a split committee vote where all Republicans vote on one side and all Democrats vote on the other side. That's not hard to predict what's going to happen on the floor. And so what Senator O'Laughlin and I have tried to do is when we know that there's a heady issue that's coming up, to try to intervene, work with both sides that may have a disagreement, and work on a compromise before we get to the floor. The floor is the place where we should be debating legislation towards final passage, not where we're debating an issue for the very first time and there have been no negotiations before a bill reaches the floor.
Your entire career in the Senate, you've been the leading voice for law enforcement, for law and order. I would say if this you may look back on your career and the capstone of that work might be your role in passing the crime bill that took local control away from St. Louis and gave it to the state. It's an enormous accomplishment.
Yeah, it's a big bill. I mean, when we had our caucus retreat back in November, the number one issue for our caucus was public safety. That also happened to be the number one issue for the governor. We understand that both St. Louis and Kansas City are the two major economic engines for the state. And in order for the state to be successful as a whole, we have to have our two major metropolitan areas be successful as well. And that really starts and ends with crime. The reality is that if businesses are going to stay in St. Louis or Kansas City, if we're going to ask new businesses to relocate there and create more growth and job opportunities, we have to make sure that it's a safe environment for employees to go to and from work. And so I was really proud of the crime legislation. It was great working with Senator Schroer, Senator Fitzwater to get that across the finish line.
Lots of times there's always a little bit of a Kansas City versus St. Louis rivalry, but you're not just a person that's sitting over Kansas City throwing bombs. You have ties to the Farmington area, ties to St. Louis. You might understand this better than most folks from across the state. I really don't think when you and Governor Kehoe talk about this issue, there's obviously a lot of St. Louis bashing. That's the history of our state. But when you and Governor Kehoe talk about it, you have some roots there. I don't see a political upside in this. It looks to me like you'd only do this if you really wanted to solve a problem.
That's the only reason that I'm motivated to do it. I grew up on the eastern side of the state. As you know, I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, even though
And you should be.
It's been tough this season.
Oh.
So
you fix that next?
Yeah, well, I'll do my best. I'll do my best. But this is something that I care deeply about. I mean, some of my earliest childhood memories growing up were going to the ball game downtown with my dad and my grandfather at the old Busch Stadium. Growing up as a kid and going and seeing the Nutcracker during Christmas with my mom and my grandma at the Fox Theater. Like, I have very fond memories as a kid growing up and what it was like to be in St. Louis whenever it was safer than it is right now. And I want to get back to that place. And all the things that we're doing legislatively are motivated by that desire to make St. Louis the city that it used to be, which is a city that's safe and a city that's vibrant and a city that's seeing economic growth, not decline.
So break it down for me. To me, there's two issues here. I don't know that anybody trusts the stats anymore, except murders. Murders are something that hard to juice those stats. You look into the future. Was it year 3? Is it year 4? Where do you start? Where can you say, okay, if we enact all the things we're doing and we stay on track, when should folks start to see a decline and maybe a sense of safeness in St. Louis that they haven't seen in a long time?
So, everything takes a certain amount of time. There have been some crime statistics that have been highlighted, some of which are maybe accurate, some of which are not recently. But to the extent that you've seen even now a downward trend in crime in St. Louis, I mean, we've had a major change. We no longer have a circuit attorney in St. Louis who refuses to prosecute violent criminals. We have Gabe Gord now, who has shown a willingness to prosecute violent criminals. I've always said that for the criminal justice system to really work, you have to have three things. You have to have a well-funded, well-trained law enforcement community that's willing to go out and apprehend the bad guys. You have to have a prosecutor that will prosecute and appropriately sentence people. And then lastly, you need to have judges that will enforce those sentences. And over the years, whether it started with Governor Parson, is continuing on to Governor Kehoe right now, we have a new circuit attorney who's prosecuting crime. We are going to have a police department after this bill that, in my mind, will be more well-funded and will also feel like they have the support of the police commissioners that the governor puts on there. And then you've seen Governor Parson, and I'm sure Governor Kehoe will continue this, to rebuild the bench of judges in the city of St. Louis. All of those things working in concert together is how you fix the criminal justice system to make St. Louis a safer place.
So when should folks see results? 3 years? 5 years?
I mean, like I said, I think we are going to start. You've started seeing some results already, even before this bill passed, because of a new circuit attorney. And I think that as the new commissioners get appointed, I think that you're going to see gradual results in that regard.
To me, it comes down to this: if we went to a ball game, I don't go to Ballpark Village. There's Cubs fans there, and I like to go to patios. So we went to patios, and we were going to stay at the Magnolia Hotel up on Washington Avenue. It's about 6-8 blocks.
Yeah.
Right now, if Lucinda texts you or Casey texts me, we're going to walk there. Be like, no, you're not walking there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you and I were staying at patios, if you and I would walk together up to the Magnolia. At what point do you think there could be a sense of, okay, maybe not them, but maybe you and I might make that walk?
Yeah. I'm hoping that we're going to see that sooner rather than later. And I really do believe once you get all three rungs that I described of the criminal justice system in shape, a police department that feels supported, a prosecutor will prosecute, and judges who will enforce sentences, the crime problem starts to resolve when those three things are in place. The last piece that we were missing in the city of St. Louis, in my opinion, was the law enforcement piece, because the mayor controlled the police department. They did not feel like they were supported by the current and soon-to-be former mayor. And I think that this bill is the last step in really reforming the crime problem that we've seen in St. Louis.
So in August, the legislation starts to go into effect. The police commissioners get appointed. Well, I guess they can start serving before they're confirmed. But that process, when do you think you'll have the police board up and running and really governing the police department?
So I think under the legislation, if I remember correctly, there's a 90-day window in which the governor has to act. And so I would suspect that sometime this summer, you will probably see the governor starting to make some appointments to that police board. You'll start to see them take control of the police department. And so that would be the time frame that I would expect sometime this summer.
You referenced the new mayor this week. There was let's be honest, it was a landslide victory for Kara Spencer. I'm sure she's not in favor of the takeover of the police department, but she does seem to be more willing to have some discussions about what that looks like now that that's the reality. Also, I think, on some level, I think obviously folks are voting for change, and that probably on some level validates your decisions to lead the fight to take over the police department. If nothing else, it's going to be different, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you look at the elections recently in St. Louis, whether it was Congressional District 1 and Cori Bush losing her seat, whether it's, Kim Gardner resigning, her position as circuit attorney. By the way, I think if she'd ran for re-election, she wouldn't have got reelected. And then finally,
I would have argued with you until this past week.
Yeah, and then finally, you have, Tashara Jones getting booted out as the mayor. And I think what you've seen is a repudiation of the policies that have been in place in St. Louis by the electorate there. They're finally realizing that what has happened over, the course of the last several years is not working. And I think if you talk to most people who live in the city of St. Louis or people who live in the surrounding counties, crime is the number one issue, and they have not seen crime go down, and so they voted for change. They want public safety and order to be returned to the streets of St. Louis.
Let's talk about an issue that hits rural Missouri. We talked about St. Louis, now let's talk about Farmington. You passed a bill that's been attempted for several years and kind of got usually always caught up in the back and forth of some of the personalities of the Senate to allow Farm Bureau to offer health insurance plans to rural Missourians in a what is a lot of an insurance desert. I mean, talk about hospitals closing. It doesn't matter if you have a hospital across the street if you can't afford to go there.
Yeah, I mean, access to rural medicine is something that we talk about a lot in the General Assembly. I was really proud to partner with Garrett Hawkins, the president of the Missouri Farm Bureau, with Curtis Gregory, who is the bill sponsor, Senator Sandy Crawford, who has been a stalwart on this issue for many legislative sessions. She chairs the Insurance and Banking Committee. I was happy to see this get across the finish line. This was a big priority for rural Missouri. It's a big priority for farmers. And all we're talking about is giving more choice in health care to people in rural Missouri that are frequently underserved.
Let's talk about another of those big conservative priorities, capital gains tax cut. I think it's starting to be a problem for this party. You've had the majority for a quarter century. You've had a supermajority for 15 years. Supermajority plus the governor for 8. Taxes have income tax went from 6 to 4. There's nothing to show that's grown in this state. And if anything, we fell behind the national average. This is a different type of tax cut. Maybe this is what works.
Yeah, I mean, I applaud Senator Trent for his work on this legislation, and what the capital gains tax cut really does is it eliminates the income tax that's imposed on Missourians for investments that they make. And so think about the multi-generation family farm where they want to keep it in the family and they want to pass it to the next generation.
About a spec house. I mean, I watched Sam Linkletter testify for a tax cut. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, and then you get small business owners where they want to hand their business over to their children to keep that small business in Missouri, to keep it family owned. You think about individuals who maybe work for a smaller employer who don't have the benefit of having a 401k employer sponsored plan. And so they're saving for retirement by investing in the stock market and bonds and other securities. This is helping them save for their retirement by cutting down on the tax liability there. And so it's helping a lot of people. And I think it's going to be something that's going to attract investment in the state of Missouri and then ultimately let more people decide how to spend their hard-earned money.
I've seen Governor Keogh talk about reducing the income tax to 0. I guess my question is, at what point should a Missourian expect to see any type of growth from these tax cuts?
Well, I think we have seen growth. I mean, if you look recently, we've seen Missouri outpace a lot of our surrounding states. Like you look at the COVID recovery, we recovered a lot faster. We're also funding government at record levels right now. I know, this is.
At what point would you see more people move to Missouri?
Well, I mean, I think that we have seen other states like Tennessee, for example, that have eliminated the income tax. You've seen, because of that, large growth in the economy, businesses relocating there because of a zero tax environment. You've seen a lot of individuals who...
You have to go to 0 to see any improvement?
No, I don't think you necessarily have to go to 0 to see improvement. I would like to see us get to 0 personally. But I think, you look at some of the surrounding states in the Midwest, can we get to a point where the income tax is lower compared to our peer states to make us more attractive for businesses to relocate? Missouri has a lot of natural advantages too. The fact that we're centrally located in the United States, located along, 2 major rivers, the fact that we've got 2 international airports. Those are huge deals in terms of shipping, logistics, manufacturing, and we want to be doing things in our tax code to make Missouri an attractive place for businesses to relocate.
Senator Luetkemeyer, good luck with the rest of the session. Hope you'll come back this summer and give us maybe a recap here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Absolutely, Scott. You can count on it.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Missouri's childcare crisis is hurting our children, families, and even our economy. Currently, 78 Missouri counties are designated as childcare deserts, where the number of kids needing childcare exceeds the number of available options. Today, some Missouri families are spending more on childcare than housing, and Missouri's childcare shortage costs our economy $1.35 billion every year. Missouri families and businesses deserve better. Learn more at mochampionofchildren.com.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren, Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. Very busy legislative week and big election week. We are joined by Representative George Hruza from St. Louis County. Thank you so much for making the time.
Well, thanks for having me.
Bennie Cook from Central Missouri. Good to see you, man.
Good seeing you.
Jake Kroesen, the man of the hour, making his This Week in Missouri Politics debut. Won't be long, he'll be in this middle chair. He is the editor of the Missouri Times. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
And Marlene Terry, one of my favorite people in the whole world. St. Louis County, big week in your area, big elections, right? You had a mayor and a comptroller election. It feels like it was the margin that Kara Spencer won by was enough to show the citizens want something different.
Yeah, the citizens actually spoke, and I think when we need to listen to what they're saying, and actually that's St. Louis City, and I'm St. Louis County, but I do follow because it's so close.
Sure.
And you have to listen to what the people want. So the people spoke. It's important that you be personable with individuals in the community, that you have their trust. And so if the people decided on something different, I guess they wanted to go in a different direction. And so it's a shame that you can't. I would like to see individuals at least do 2 terms or whatever to get the job done, because sometimes that's what it takes. We're here sometime for 2 years, then we have to run 2 years. It takes us 2 years to get acclimated and sure what we're doing. So 4 years is really not enough to get your job done, especially if you have a plan. You know, you have a plan.
Kara Spencer, though.
I'm not sure. I really don't know her that well, but apparently she made an impact on the individuals in the city of St. Louis that they wanted to give her a shot.
Jake, I'm a person, I'm an admirer of former Mayor Jones. I know Kara Spencer. She's a very good person. It felt a little bit to me like Mayor Jones saw 50 problems and tried to address them all, and maybe didn't quite make the progress the citizens wanted on some of those problems. I think the back to basics theme of Kara Spencer, maybe she just picks 2 or 3 and works on solving them.
No, yeah. I mean, from the conversations I had with people in the Capitol after the election, a lot of them were I guess, excited, I would say, to see what the new opportunities that will present themselves during this new administration. So I think she will take a more serious approach to maybe a couple issues, serious issues to the city, and I think that'll be ultimately good for St. Louis.
Dr. Hruza, as someone who is in a county, but let's be honest, it's all very connected. Nobody really knows where the lines go in St. Louis. I mean, it's St. Louis community. I felt like from the results that folks wanted something different. They did not like what they were getting. They wanted to try something new. When you have an election that ends that lopsidedly, I mean, that's kind of what I heard him saying. Are you right?
To me, it's a mandate. It's a mandate for change. I think the city has had lots of issues going on for decades, really, and so it's a real expression of frustration of the citizens of St. Louis.
Let me ask you a question. I think, well, Mayor Jones has always been a lightning rod her entire career. The mayor's office is one thing. It kind of has its own, people have its own view. I thought a person you know very well, Donna Behringer's election to comptroller, that was a real sense. I don't think that many folks know fully what the job does. I don't think that many folks know the candidates all that well. That to me was a this is the same and this is different. Yep. That election might have been more of a statement on changing anything.
I'm excited to see what Donna will do. So I don't know much about the position, so I probably need to call Donna and say, hey, what is this position?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What is...
Well, let me jump in if I may.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I want to talk about the police downtown again. I feel safe when I go down there. And what I want to say is downtown is giving the most security in any part of St. Louis because of all the attractions that it has.
Do you feel it's safe enough right now for visitors to feel?
No place is safe enough right now. So I just think this is I voted against the takeover. I most certainly did because of Kansas City. They saw no improvements. But I also respect the decision that was made, and so we will see. I'm from the show me state, but I'm not going to say that it's going to be any better because that's what's happened. Now we can go to Donna Berrigan or whatever. Darlene Green, almost 30 years of experience, a CPA. She only lost by 3 votes, and so I feel that she's very experienced.
Sure.
Donna Berrigan, I don't even know if she has an accounting degree or whatever. I don't even know. But it is a statement that it was just a statement to me that the people want some change.
Something different.
Something different. So we have to respect that. Again, the people have spoke, but I think that Darlene Green was a big loss for the city of St. Louis. I really do, with all her experience. And hopefully she was at the retirement age where she won't have to worry. I felt really bad about that.
I don't think she'll be unemployed long if she doesn't want to be. Benny, big vote in the House this week. Not often in session do you see one of these votes that are this tight on a big issue and the gallery's full. VLTs, video lottery terminals, making them legal to be, they're in the state now, different versions of them. Legalizing and regulating them was a bill that passed the House, 83 votes, big win for Speaker Patterson.
Yes, my prosecutor in Texas County, we've had meetings with the Attorney General to discuss these machines. There's current litigation going on in Texas County over these machines. So I was happy to see this bill come forward. My law enforcement folks wanted to see additional regulation put on them because this is something that needs to be done. So I appreciate what happened.
Representative Hruza, your first session. This is the first time you've probably seen the board held open for the speaker to go twist a few arms. John Patterson opened the board without 82 votes. But by the time the board closed, he got the votes he needed.
For me, that was the first time I've seen that kind of drama, which is it's a little bit like I would say sort of like a movie type of situation. So for me, it was actually a very exciting time. I know that it was very stressful, I'm sure, for the speaker, but to me, it showed.
He's like Andy Reid on the sidelines when he's talking to folks. He gives it one of these right here, so you can't see what. I guess you can't see what he's saying. It's kind of cool.
Because he knows that people can read lips, and so it was definitely great. I also felt that the outcome was where I was at.
Yeah.
Because regulating those the machines, I think is really important. It's. And there's certainly benefits also for schools and veterans and so forth in there. But to me, the regulation, so that we can have them, for example, in a separate location, in the location that it's a segregated area. It's not like where you walk in, where a 10-year-old walks right by all the machines and a number of other safety measures.
Jake, big win for John Patterson. Mm-hmm. The issue is hard to understand for folks. I think everybody's seen the slot machines in the gas stations, but big win for Patterson.
Absolutely. No, I think Patterson's had a very good year this year. From what I've seen, House Republican leadership has been totally united behind Patterson and also just united as a caucus, despite the whole leadership challenge that he saw early on this session. But from there, I have not seen any sort of sign that Patterson has lost any hold on his caucus, and neither have I seen any sign that his caucus has lost faith in Patterson.
So you were on the floor. Interesting time, right? You voted yes, and I'm hoping you got a deal for that. Something good.
The BLTs?
Yes.
No, I voted yes because my people. They're
I'm disappointed in you, Marlene.
The machines are all in my community, and reading is fundamental. First of all, they brought up an amendment that says that the petitions and all this, because people were going all over the place talking about kids. I've never seen a child in one of those machines. I don't know where that's at. Then, it's about regulations. They're acting like, can we put these machines somewhere? They're already there. So, I'm not going to take something from people their people enjoy that. That's their business. You start getting in people's business about how they're spending their money and all that. That's just ridiculous. The conversation was too out of line for that. They're talking about regulating something, which it should have been regulated before they were even put out there, but now they're out there, so let's regulate them. That's common sense. Read what the bill says.
But if you did get something in a deal, you wouldn't tell us, right?
I did not.
Let's talk about the state budget, Representative Terry. You were a big part of that operation. What did you think of the House budget?
I was very disappointed. I live in a
Well, House budget's more of a political statement, right, than a budget.
The press release.
For me, it's the only thing mostly that I can take back to my community if I bring something back. And I don't think I was asking for much, probably maybe no more than $3 million. And so I was really disappointed because I had one bill that was for a park for one of the most underserved communities that I serve, $300,000. And then to come to find out that the budget chair has a $17 million proposal for a park in his community upset me.
Shouldn't they name that park Jesse James Park in Pineville, where they shot the movie Jesse James, right?
We'll see what happens with that. I'm excited about the budget. I'm excited to see what the Senate sends back to us, and hopefully we'll get it back soon.
What do you think?
Well,
Well, it feels like we've seen this movie many times. The House passes kind of a budget, and then the Senate probably passes a budget.
Well, that's always a challenge. That's kind of the balance of power here. I'm learning that. I was happy with the budget just because I look at the overall numbers, and they are moving in the right direction. Because I do believe that we really need to live within our means. So I was pleased by that.
Jake, with a minute left, who won the week?
Dr. John Patterson. After the vote on the VLTs, I think it proves that his leadership is effective, and he's been wielding power very wisely.
Who won the week?
Is he a doctor? I didn't.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. He is.
like a real one. Like not like some PhD professor. He's a real doctor.
Well, I'm going to say Dr. Mary
Ah,
Burnth. She's the new director for our education, joint education committee. So I'm going to give a shout out to her.
but if someone has a heart attack, still call Patterson, right?
Yes.
I got it.
Most definitely.
Who won the week?
Well, we're giving titles out: the Constitution lover, the Second Amendment preservation protector, Billy Hardwick.
Yep.
The BLTs. He carried that and won the week.
Boy, he did such a good job on the floor, not being combative, not
Yeah.
taking anybody's bait.
Very smart.
He really did a heck of a job. Who won the week?
Chad Perkins.
Oh, love Chad Perkins. Chad kind of wins every week. Well, you talk about a guy who's got everything going for him now. Beautiful fiance. I mean,
Well,
life is coming to Chad Perkins.
He's going to retire.
I'm mainly saying it because of our capital. I've got a bill with him, capital gains
Yes.
elimination, which came through the Senate with all kinds of, I don't know, I call it a Christmas tree added to it, which seems to be
Got bigger.
what they do. It got bigger than I probably would love, but I think the key part is still in there, and we just passed it out of fiscal review this morning, so hopefully it will be on the floor later today.
Well, as I take a drink of my Coffee Zone hot chocolate with my Gary Wheeler as a Missouri Soybean Association cover on it, I'm going to break the rules and do two. One, Donna Behringer, person that knows Coffee Zone very well, knows the legislature. I'm excited to see what she does. A very good legislator and good person. I'm excited for her success. And then one of the best people in this state is now the mayor of Springfield, Jeff Schrag. What a great guy, great community citizen. I think he's everything you'd want in a mayor. I'm excited for the future of Springfield with Jeff Schrag as mayor. Hope you'll be excited to join us back here next week on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, the United Electric Cooperative, and the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts.